Well, welcome to our first virtual Williamsburg Economic Development Authority Business Roundtable. We're pleased to be able to offer this service to our local business leaders, and we're really glad that you've been able to join us. We're anticipating about 50 people for this call who've registered, and you should be able to log in and see the presentation, but you can also call in to 213-250-5700. My name is Rick Overy, and I am the Vice Chair of the EDA and a local business owner. Joining us today are our speaker, Congresswoman Elaine Luria, and our Economic Development Director, Michelle DeWitt. We anticipate our call will be about 30 to 40 minutes. The Congresswoman will be giving brief introductory remarks, followed by questions that were submitted prior to the call. After the question and answer, Michelle will provide some information about some of the resources that the city has made available to local businesses. So first, let me begin by introducing our speaker. Congresswoman Luria represents Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Williamsburg used to be in the 1st Congressional District, but new lines were drawn in 2016. So the 2nd District now includes Accomack, Northampton, Virginia Beach, Poquoson, York County, and the city of Williamsburg, as well as parts of Hampton, Norfolk, and James City. Prior to her election in 2018, Representative Luria served 2 decades in the Navy, retiring with the rank of commander. She served on 6 ships as a nuclear-trained surface warfare officer, deployed to the Middle East and the Western Pacific, and culminated her Navy career by commanding a combat-ready unit of 400 soldiers, or sailors in this case. All of the members in the House Democratic Caucus, she has served longest on active duty. In Congress, she serves as a member of the House Armed Services Committee, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. She leads the House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee on Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs, and is the Vice Chair of the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Sea Power and Projection Forces. Representative Luria graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy and received a Master's in Engineering Management from ODU, so she's well qualified to serve our district. Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Rick. Thanks for inviting me to join this conversation, and thank you to everyone who's taken time to participate in this discussion. And I know that the COVID crisis is uncharted territory. Nothing like this has happened in over roughly a century. And, it is something that we are having to find new and different ways to deal with, both on the health aspects of the crisis as well as the follow-on impact to our community and our economy. And it's great to be able to speak with another group of small business owners and understand the challenges that you are facing. And really part of a job of a representative, I think, is to listen to the community and take that feedback back. And so we have gotten numerous different policy and feedback issues about the Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL emergency loans from the SBA, as well as other aspects of the program. And, as we work to develop the next CARES package, we're working very hard to try to incorporate some of that feedback, some of the things that have been challenges with the current legislation into what we can do moving forward. I know that it's very difficult because, the health situation and the current number of infections and the spread is really what's driving this, but there's no known timeline for the end. And so we know that has presented a lot of challenges for small businesses when deciding whether to participate in some of these programs, and definitely understand and acknowledge the impact on the tourism industry, restaurants, hotels, and all of the other businesses that thrive based on the tourism industry, and especially a seasonal tourism industry, because this is definitely going to cut into the season where people ramp up around spring break and go through Labor Day, and not knowing the end of this and how quickly we'll get back to normal or status quo is making this difficult for businesses. And when we put this package together, you have to say that putting together a $2 trillion package in roughly 5 to 7 days is also unprecedented. And there were aspects of it and the implementation of it that weren't perfect. And so that's why the feedback from groups like this is very important. Our office has tried to be very proactive in connecting with small business owners and also providing information to the community on the resources that are available. So if you'd like to receive our frequent updates, we've been sending roughly 2, sometimes 3 a day. You can visit luria.house.gov and sign up for our frequent updates. and just want to be able to share as much information with the community as we can and as it develops. So want to make sure that we leave time to answer all the questions. So I will stop there and look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you for your insight, Congresswoman. Let's take a couple minutes to cover questions of local interest to our business leaders. First, how do you anticipate businesses opening? Slowly, perhaps 50% at first, then 75%, or all at once? How are we going to get this done?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that those restrictions are put in place at the state level, and so the governor has put that restriction in place through June 10th for Virginia. The congressional delegation, all 11 of us plus both senators, we have routine calls with the governor to provide the feedback that we're hearing, and then try to understand the planning that they're going through. And I would have to say that that's something that's still being looked at. There's not a decision of exactly how we would go back to normal, but what I would say is that I don't anticipate we can just turn the light switch on and allow large events with thousands of people or full restaurants right away. I think that there will be some gradual easing in, not to mention the fact that just individuals themselves are going to be a little bit more hesitant to perhaps frequent the businesses in the same way that they did before. And so talking to lots of restaurant owners, for example, they know that an order will come that says you can open up again, but they don't expect to have the restaurant full like it would be potentially at this time of year. And that is a consideration that they're taking into account as well with their staffing and whether they choose to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program, because they know that at 100% staffing, that might not be necessary the day they reopen, and they want to be responsible and do that gradually. So, obviously we will provide information as the choices and decisions are made by the governor on how that phase in will happen. But I don't anticipate that the light switch will just go on and everything will go back to normal for a variety of reasons that I discussed.
Thank you. Secondly, once it's deemed safe, what help can we get from the federal government and from your office in reopening Williamsburg and the historic triangle? Our local economy obviously is dependent on tourism and hospitality, which have been devastated by the government response to the disease dangers. What help, the governor certainly is providing help. What help can we get from the federal government and from perhaps your office?
Well, looking towards the next package and the next piece of legislation that I anticipate we will pass, I think that is really deemed to be the recovery package. And I think that, some of the industries that have been the hardest hit are travel and tourism specifically. So that's something that we're looking very closely at. We've spoken to hotel owners, large and small, understand the extreme challenges that they're going through. And, we want to, once we get things open safely, we want to get people, back to what we would call normal. And travel and tourism, may be more challenging for some families who've undergone their own economic hardships during this time. So I think we all can agree that, the season, this summer, Labor Day is not going to be at the same peak as before, but looking at ways to help the travel and tourism industry specifically through that package.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that once people are ready, they're stir crazy and they want to get out. And ours
Right.
is a destination like much of your district, including the beach. And hopefully people who don't want to get on an airplane or a cruise ship will want to come to this part of the world. So we'll look forward to that. Many of the businesses are signing up for the small business loans, but we had a question you may be able to answer. Will businesses be eligible to receive business interruption insurance payments based on the COVID-19 impacts?
So the short answer to that is essentially it depends on the insurance policy, but what we've heard unanimously from holders of those policies, small business owners. I was a small business owner myself for about 6 years, and I don't think I ever read through the small fine print to see was a pandemic covered in there. But I think that what people have come to discover is that that's excluded from the small business policies. And we have, as Congress, looked at that as a means. How do we get the resources to the small businesses to recoup from lost revenue to pay their employees? And that is one means that's being discussed. There's also several lawsuits that are pending based on small business owners suing the insurance companies for that lack of coverage during this time, and we're following those closely. So just to summarize, I mean, that's one means that we're looking at to help small businesses. But in general, that is not covered in most people's business interruption policies. And I think that the programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, the Emergency Assistance Disaster Loans, and the increased unemployment insurance and coverage for self-employed independent contractors and gig workers is meant to provide that safety net that perhaps is not being covered through the business interruption insurance. And I know that that answer doesn't help everyone, because specifically restaurants, and I've heard that mostly from restaurant owners, like that is the way that they feel they could be covered to, when a hurricane comes through, for example, that's what they turn to is those policies, but that's not currently in place.
Okay, thank you very much. You talked about some of the challenges with trying to put this package together quickly, unintended consequences. I will let you know that the local banks have been doing a really good job with processing loans, the SBA loans for some of our local businesses. So there's been some coverage about how national banks have been struggling, but the local banks seem to have been pretty quick working with their customers here in our region. One of the other unintended consequences, the Department of Transportation was working with Delta and American Airlines to consolidate their operations in Norfolk, but that would have pretty significant unintended consequences with regards to the viability of Newport News Williamsburg Airport, which has already been struggling. Can you just give us an update on your delegation's discussions with the Department of Transportation and where that stands?
Certainly. We understand the importance to the peninsula of the Newport News Williamsburg Airport, and have worked with my colleagues in the Virginia delegation to push back, to write letters in support of specifically keeping the airport open, and also have weighed in on the fact that it services NASA Langley as well as Langley Air Force Base in Fort Eustis. So it is a critical transportation node, and we will continue to push to make sure that the service is not just there during this time.
Thank you very much. Can you share your insights into the perception of the chain management fiasco? Federal, state, local, corporate interests all working together, but trying to get medical supplies and equipment. That didn't start out well, and perhaps you have some insights that you could share with us about how that's improved and what went wrong in the initial stages.
Well, I share the sentiment of the person who asked the question. Fiasco. I think that it has been very inefficient. And I think that a centralized distribution system that prioritized these resources to the areas that needed them the most, that had the most cases, was a critical step that I think has not been implemented. The Defense Production Act to produce things like the ventilators that are needed, I think could have been kicked into gear specifically to help out in a time like this. That's exactly what it was created for in the 1950s, and that would be its intended use. And that's really been, a hodgepodge. And, I've heard comments to say that it's in full effect, but, have a lack of any, evidence to show that it is in effect or being orchestrated in an organized way. And it's left the states to kind of fend for themselves. When we have our delegation calls with the governor and hear from the Secretary of Health and Human Services, for example, we know that Virginia has been left to its own devices to find the critical things like the PPE, the hand sanitizer, and really implement what you're talking about at a state level, and to replicate that 50 times plus the territories is not the most efficient. And it leaves people fighting, against each other for these resources, and, competing for costs. And there's also reporting that FEMA has stepped in and taken some of the materials and reallocated them somewhere else. If FEMA were to be in charge of all of this and was doing that in an organized way, would fully support that. But when states depend on an order they've placed to support the needs in that particular state, and then it's diverted, that just leaves them looking again to fill that need. I know that Virginia has procured some very large deliveries of those items and is working in a centralized way within the Commonwealth to distribute them. So if it's not happening at a national level, I've gotten great updates from the governor's team about how they're trying to do that at a state level. So I guess the summary is I think we could have done better, and we can still do better, because the end is not here as far as the need for these products.
I hope as the discussions of federalism and states' rights and all that continue well after this, that Williamsburg can be a host for some of those discussions as we talk about what's the role of federal government, local government, and the state government. Those discussions obviously been going on here for a couple hundred years. So we'd be a good place to host that discussion.
Yes.
Lastly, what can we do to assist you and your efforts in Washington? Obviously, you're serving on our behalf, so we're grateful for that. How can we help you?
Well, I think that forums like this, I know that the questions were submitted ahead of time, but we certainly want to hear from constituents, from small businesses, from federal, from state and local government. I've had calls with the mayor in Williamsburg, the county commissioners in James City County, and really trying to get the perspectives from across the district and how we can craft legislation to best help you. Another thing as well is, we want to be able to share the information about these programs and make sure that that reaches everyone. So we've really been trying to push that out. So, anyone here that can help share that information would just, help get these resources to more people. And luria.house.gov is the official House website, and there's a link on there. It shows all of our previous releases with all of the information, as well as to sign up for future newsletter updates. And I think that the more we can spread that and help get this information out, I know people are receiving it from lots of places. Rob Whitman sends out great updates. I read his every day as well. And we're just trying to all help get that information out to everybody.
We have gotten great information, and I think people are acting on it. Thank you for your service in this strange time, both from your home and in Washington. We're grateful for your service, and I do encourage our local leaders to reach out to you through that website. Caleb has also been fantastic in coming to the lunches, and we really appreciate his representing you here locally. So thank you so much.
Yes, and Caleb is up on the peninsula in York County full-time. So Caleb is also a resource. Please, give our office a call, and we will try to help with anything we can. And it doesn't have to be business related. We're helping constituents who are stranded and having travel difficulties overseas. And we obviously are helping with the normal constituent casework that we do, anything to do with federal aid, Social Security, Medicare, VA, immigration issues. We just want to continue to be a resource for the community.
Well, thank you again for your service, and we appreciate your time today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We would like to offer another business roundtable on Tuesday, May 12th at noon with the Tourism Council CEO Victoria Simoneau to talk about the marketing efforts to bring visitors back to Williamsburg when the crisis is over. So we hope you'll join us again on May 12th at noon. In the meantime, our economic development staff has been working full-time and even overtime from their home offices to provide support for our city businesses. Leading that effort is Economic Director Michelle DeWitt, who will highlight some of the resources that are available to help your business during the crisis. Please reach out to her team to see how they can help you. Michelle?
Thank you, Rick, and hello, everyone. I wish I could see everyone in person, but we're delighted and thank our IT staff at the city for making this possible. Wanted to highlight, first of all, please call us. We're going to put the phone number up on the screen here. Feel free to call us at the Economic Development Office. There's 3 of us, as you know, Joanna, Yuri, and me. So we're all responding to questions that come in. And then to also take a look at our website. And you see there we have yeswilliamsburg.com/COVID-19. So that's where we're posting all the newsletters that have gone out and all the information we think may be helpful to our businesses. And a big thank you to our businesses who are being so creative and so positive in addressing this unknown time. I think we see that with our restaurants. We hear a lot about the takeout delivery, but it's all of our businesses, our financial services, other professional services, contractors, architects. Everyone is figuring out a way to keep people employed and keep the economy going during this time, and we really, really appreciate that. I wanted to highlight, as you see 4 bullets on this slide, a couple of things that we've done. We do have a $500 grant to help your business transition to working during these times, whether that's virtual meetings like we're doing right now, or curbside delivery, or other type of deliveries, or marketing to your customers to let them know that you're still open and here's a way for them to reach you. So please give us a call or take a look at that grant online. It's pretty simple. We want to get that money on the street as quickly as we can. We also have a business loss form that allows you to weekly submit what your sales were last year compared to this year. So that gives us a direct analysis of the loss based on COVID-19 that we know you are experiencing. These forms will come into us. The business name will be kept confidential, but the numbers will be able to group together and analyze to inform any policy decisions that council may take in the future. But just as importantly, they're available for you. So you can also email them to yourself to help keep that record going that you'll need for some disaster relief applications, as you know. Thirdly, we've set up, with the help of our IT staff, a GIS-based web map that's on the web where you can tell us how you're still open and operating and how customers can reach you and you're still making sales and serving those customers. So please submit that if you haven't already. And just as importantly, please use that when you need to purchase services. Keep dollars local. And that's a great tool to find what city businesses are still operating and can meet your needs. Lastly, we have a link we just call external resources. So every day we're learning more, much as the Congresswoman said. We're learning from her office. We're learning a lot from our local SBDC office, who is interpreting the Small Business Administration legislation or administration efforts as they come down. We're talking to our bankers, we're talking to tourism folks. So whenever we find something useful, we're posting it there in addition to emailing it out to everyone. But lastly, I'll say again, our hearts are with all of you. Even if you just need someone to talk to, feel free to give us a call or send us an email at this address and phone number. Nothing's too small or too large to talk to us about. So we look forward to hearing from y'all and wish everyone to stay well and healthy during this time. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Michelle. You can tell our economic development staff really cares about our community. I know you all are working hard, so thank you all for what you're doing. Also, let us know how we can help your business to survive during the crisis and then to thrive afterwards. Thank you for joining us today. Please stay safe, take care of yourselves and each other. We still think Williamsburg is a fantastic place to do business. We thank you for all you're doing. Please continue to support our local businesses and let us know how we can help you. Have a great day.